And we are back with the fourth segment of the GSMC basketball podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this fourth segment, we are going to talk a little bit more about the Cavs drama that's been going on in this off season because there is more to add to it. Now we have word that they are zeroing in, this is huge quotes by the way, on getting their new head coach. So it seems like if I could English, their head coaching search, that's what I meant to say, is going to be over relatively soon. And this is the coach that they're planning on getting. His name is, I mentioned this before in the previous podcast. He's James Borrego. And the Cavs, they've had a long and lengthy head coaching search. And it appears they are nearing an agreement with Borrego as, reports that Chris Fender from Cleveland.com, he reported that the team has narrowed down a group that initially consisted of about 10 candidates to about 4 or 5 finalists and will have in-person interviews. So they're slowly starting the process of deciding who they want to grab and who they're going to get as their head coach. So we just go ahead and let me just go ahead and find the article that says this, that, and the other. Okay, so Fedor, he doesn't name all 5 of the finalists, or however many there are. It's 4 or 5, no idea. But he confirms that the Pelicans assistant James Borrego met with head of basketball operations Kobe Altman and other Cavs officials on Tuesday, and that the Warriors assistant Kenny Atkinson will follow suit this week, likely either Wednesday or Thursday. So it's between him or Atkinson. And while Atkinson was identified as a potential frontrunner early in the process, Fedor says Borrego has been considered the leader in the clubhouse since last week. And a Tuesday report out of New Orleans suggested the Pelicans are bracing for the loss of Borrego, who is also a candidate for the Lakers. So that could also bring in a lot of, really big problems for LA as well, because if you remember previously, Dan Hurley, he rejected an offer to be the Lakers head coach, and he ended up opting to stay with UConn and pursue a third NCAA title. Now we have another coach that the Lakers have their eyes set on, and it seems that another team also has their eyes set on that exact same coach. So it doesn't really look like things are sort of falling in their favor if you're a Lakers fan or if you are working with the Lakers. It doesn't seem like nothing is going your way. And with the Cavs, interested in this, in this coach, there might be usually it would be a lot more difficult to convince a coach to, on which team to coach, whether it would be to coach LeBron in LA or whether it would be to coach Cleveland in with Donovan Mitchell. And a lot of people, I feel like the decision now with, the stimulus around LeBron and his, there's apparently like a lot of people don't really trust the coach that, LeBron has. And it seems that it's like, every single time that LeBron gets a new coach, they end up getting fired. And maybe now it's sort of like seen as a bad thing to be LeBron's coach as opposed to being a good thing. And, maybe the Borrego would rather be in a low, since he was an assistant coach on a relatively weak team, not as weak media team, I should say. Like, the Pelicans media team isn't really as strong as the Lakers media team and things like that. And the lights aren't as bright in Cleveland as they are in LA. So maybe he would rather go to a place that doesn't really put all that pressure on him in Cleveland as opposed to LA. And it's like, it's a really tough decision to make. So Borrego and Atkinson, they both check 2 important boxes for Cleveland. Fedor notes they have prior head coaching experience and they're more offensive-minded coaches. Maximizing the club's offensive production is a priority after its offensive rating of 114.7 ranked 16th in the regular season and then dropped all the way down to 104.7 in the playoffs. Now, that number, it was partly like, the reason why that number is so low in the playoffs was because they didn't have Donovan Mitchell for 2 of those games. And it's kind of difficult to scale just how good the team is offensively when everybody is injured, especially in the regular season. Darius Garland was injured for a majority of the regular season, and Donovan Mitchell also had his fair share of injuries. So it's a possibility that the injuries have impacted their scoring in a negative way, and there's no really telling what the big problem with their offense actually is. So Cleveland isn't simply zeroing in on offensive specialists, however. A source tells Fedor that at least one of the team's finalists is better known for his defensive-minded scheme, signaling that management is focused on finding the best overall fit, regardless of candidates' specific strengths and weaknesses. And it's like this could end up benefiting Jarrett Allen or Evan Mobley if they end up getting a coach that is rather strong on the defensive side of the ball, because we know Jarrett Allen's one of his biggest strengths is his rim protection, and Evan Mobley is much more of an all-around player than Garland and Donovan Mitchell. And eventually, it seems like one of them is going to be off the team sooner rather than later, but we'll see how it goes in the offseason, and we'll see what exactly is going to happen, whether or not it might be another Jimmy Butler situation. If you guys remember all the way back in 2018, 2019, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they refused to trade Jimmy Butler simply because they wanted Jimmy Butler on the roster. Jimmy wasn't having it, and he ended up causing all sorts of problems in the locker room. He was, he was making a big fit. He's making all this show. Maybe it could be a similar story where it's and not only that, Ben Simmons also wanted to get traded from the 76ers. He ended up putting on a big show, and it ended up being the talk of the entire regular season until he got traded. And it's these players, they can really influence the organizations to trade them depending on the attitude and how they act. And it's Jimmy was acting like a wild person. I mean, there was a moment when the Warriors fans, they were doing this with their towels, and then Jimmy Butler on the bench, he was joining in on that, and it was really he really wanted to get traded. And a lot of these players, they have a lot of a big influence on trading, and it's way different than how it was back then, where it's if a player requested a trade, then they'd still act like a grown adult. I remember Kobe requested a trade, wanted out from LA, and then he ended up acting like an adult and was like, all right, nope, I'll stay with LA, because he talked to front office, and the front office provided him with the help that he wanted. And it's really these players, they have a big influence on their status on their team. And at the end of the day, it is a business at the end of the day, but a lot of players, they can influence that business. So that's basically all I have for this Cavs drama segment. So now we will go ahead and go into the fifth segment, where we will talk a little bit about the finals. I'm just going to give a quick finals preview. 2-0 in the series. The series is now shifted over to Dallas, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The game is tonight, so I'll be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.